friends, a very warm welcome to the Crochet Hook channel. Today I feel very delighted as we have this very easy, elegantly awesome and yet very classical African flower hexagon crochet motif. See how beautiful it looks, and yet it gets completed here in simply 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 rounds. In just a couple of minutes, you can incorporate it into a variety of crochet projects, be it beanies, berets, bedspreads, afghans, labghans, table runners, baby blankets and so on. The list is endless and the choice is entirely yours. For the friends who are joining me here for the first time, please do consider subscribing to my channel. That means a lot. Having all that been said, let's get started with the pattern and have fun crocheting it together. So here I have chosen colors of my choice. I have chosen 5 colors, a crochet hook of 3.0 millimeters and a pair of scissors. So let's get started. So then to begin with, work a slip knot. This is how I prefer to work my slip knots. This is the easiest way I find. And nextly, chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Insert the hook into the very first chain, work a slip stitch to join it like this. We have a magic ring being created here, as you can see. Nextly, to begin the round 1, chain 3. This chain 3 stands for a DC. Yarn over, insert the hook into the ring in the center of it and work 1 DC around it like this. So we have 2 DCs now. Then chain 1. And this is the pattern repeat, 2 DC and chain 1. That will be repeating 5 more times for this round. So 1 already being done. 5 more repetitions, 2 DC and chain 1. So then yarn over, into the ring, work 2 DCs, 1 and 2. And then work a chain. The second repeat being done, yarn over, insert the hook into the ring, work 2 DCs, 1 and 2. Then work a chain. The third repeat completed, yarn over, into the ring, work 2 DCs, 1 and 2. And then work a chain. Fourth repeat done, yarn over, into the ring, work 2 DCs, 1 and 2. And then work a chain. The fifth repeat gets completed here. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. One more time. Insert the hook into the ring, work 2 DCs, 1 and 2. And then work the last chain 1 here. Insert the hook into this top third chain and work a slip stitch to join this round here. This is how it looks. The round 1 gets completed here. And I'll just secure the thread, put the knot and cut it, as I'm going to change the shade here for the round 2. So this is how it looks. Nextly, I'm going to join the pink shade here. So here for the next round, into any of the chain 1 space, I'll simply tie my next shade into it like this, putting secure knots, and that's it. Now through this chain 1 only, bring out the loop and chain 3, 1, 2, 3. This chain 3 stands for a DC. Again, insert the hook into the same chain 1 space, work 1 more DC. So we have 2 DCs created. Then chain 1 and yarn over, insert the hook into the same chain 1 space below and work 2 more DCs, 1 and 2. A shell is created in this chain 1 space, 2 DC, chain 1, 2 DC here. Again, skip the next 2 DCs. In the next chain 1 space, create the same shell, work 2 DCs, 1 and 2. Then chain 1, work 2 more DCs into the same chain 1 space here, 1 and 2. Again, skip the next 2 DCs below. In the next chain 1 space, work the same shell, work 2 DCs, 1 and 2. Chain 1 and 2 more DCs. The third shell in the third chain 1 is created here, like this. And this is how you have to keep moving all the way through this round. We should have 6 such shells. So here I have worked it all the way around and reached the end. And here in this top third chain, insert the hook, work a slip stitch to join this round here. Nextly, for the next round, I'm continuing with the same shade. So then slip stitch into the next DC at the top of it like this. Then slip stitch into this chain 1 space. So here we'll begin our round 3. Chain 3, this stands for 1 DC. Yarn over into the same chain 1 space, work 6 more DCs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So then including first chain 3 also as a DC, we have 7 DCs here in this chain 1 space of the shell below. Then in the next shell, skip the 4 DCs. Here in the next shell, here in its chain 1 space, again work 7 DCs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. Simple. This is how we have to move in this round all the way. In every shell in its chain 1, just create 7 DCs, 7 DCs, 7 DCs, and I'll see you at the end. I've completed it all the way and done my last 7 DCs in the last shell also. Then in this top third chain, insert the hook, work a slip stitch to join this third round here. This is how it looks. Now I'm going to change the shade, so I'll simply put the knot and cut the thread. Secure it tightly. Please sew in the loose ends wherever. See, a hexagon is already being created. So then to begin our round 4, between any of the 2 shells, I'll just pull up the loop like this. And here I'm adding a cream shade, off-white shade. Into the next DC, work a slip stitch to reach the top of the next DC like this, and then into the same DC, work 1 SC like this. Then into the next DC, work 1 SC. So we have 2 SCs, atop 2 DCs. Into the next DC, work the third SC. Into the next DC, work the fourth SC. Into the next DC, work the fifth SC of this round. Into the next DC, work the next SC. And into the 7th DC of the shell, work the 7th SC atop it, here like this. So we created SCs atop each of the 7 DCs below. Then yarn over, and we are going to work skipping this next row, and we are going to work in the second row of shells. So then we are going to work one elongated DC here. So yarn over and insert the hook between the 2 shells of this second row like this. Pull the loop, draw it little longer and work a DC like this. Simple. Then into the very next DC of the shell, of the next shell, work 1 SC and just work 1 SC atop each of the 7 DCs of the shell below. 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7, and then yarn over. We'll work one elongated DC in the second row of the shell. In between the 2 shells, just draw a long loop and work one elongated DC like this. And just like this, work 7 SCs, one elongated DC between this shell in the row 2, 7 SCs, one elongated DC, 7 SC, elongated DC till you reach the end. I have worked it all the way and reached the end. Worked my last 7th DC of the last shell also. Then yarn over and into this second row between the 2 shells, work the last elongated DC, and then into this very first SC atop it, work a slip stitch like this to join this round here. This is how the flower looks. It's really coming up beautiful. Nextly, I'm going to change the shade. So I'll just cut the thread and secure the knot here. 4 rounds got completed till now. For the 5th round, into this very SC where we have cut that thread out, I'll just pull up the loop, chain 1, and into the same SC, work 1 SC. Into the first SC, we worked our first SC of the shell. Into the next SC, work the second SC. Into the third SC of the shell, work the third SC. And now we have reached the 4th SC. Into the 4th SC here, work 1 SC, then chain 1. And again into the same 4th SC, work 1 more SC. And then we have 3 SCs ahead. Just work 1 SC atop each of the 3 SCs ahead for this shell. Like this. This is what we are creating, and nextly we are not going to work in this elongated DC, so skip that stitch. Into the next SC across it, work 1 SC. This is the first SC of our next shell. Into the next SC, work 1 SC, 2. Into the next SC, work the third SC of the shell, and again we have the fourth SC here. Into the fourth SC, create one SC, chain one, and again work one more SC into the same fourth SC. Simple. Again we have 3 SCs ahead in the shell, work one SC into each of the 3 SCs ahead. 1, 2, and 3. Again skip this elongated DC, and across it we have this SC, the first SC of the next shell, work one SC. From here work 3 SCs, one onto one SC like this, and in every fourth SC of the shell we are working one SC, chain one, and one SC. That's it, about it. And into the next 3 SCs of the shell, just work one SC atop each of them. Simple. And just keep moving all the way around. In this round I'll see you there. So here I have worked it all the way around, see, and I've reached the end here. Worked my last SC also, skip this elongated DC, and into the very first SC at the top of it beneath the 2 strands here. Inside the hook, work a slip stitch to join this round here. So here we have our 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 rounds got completed. I'm just going to secure the thread here and cut it as well. If you wish, you can stop here after the 5 rounds. This African flower gets completed, but still you can increase the size with one more row. So then to increase the size of this African flower, we'll go for one more round here. In the very first SC of any of the shells, I'll simply pull up the next shade here atop it like this, and then work 3 chains. The first 3 chains here stands for our DC. Then yarn over into the next SC of this shell, work 1 DC. So we have 2 DCs worked. Into the next SC, the third SC of the shell, work the third DC here. And then we have reached this SC, chain 1 SC. In its chain 1 space, work a V stitch creating 1 DC, then chain 1, and yarn over, work 1 more DC into the same chain 1 space here. Then yarn over, we have 3 SCs ahead for this shell. Just work 1 DC atop each of the 3 SCs of this shell, 2 and 3. This is what we are creating. Beginning from first SC of the shell, we created 3 DCs atop 3 SCs, then we created a V stitch in the V stitch below, and then we created 3 DCs in the 3 SCs below, then chain 1. And then into the next SC, work 1 DC, into the next SC, work 1 DC, and yarn over into the next DC, work 1 DC, next SC, work 1 DC, into this V stitch of SC below, work a V stitch with the DCs, 1 DC, chain 1, and 1 DC, like this. And again we have 3 SCs ahead for this shell. Just work 1 DC atop each of the 3 SCs ahead, 1, 2, and 3. And before we move on to other shell, chain 1. Like this. And then again from the first SC of the next shell, inside the hook, work 1 DC, 1 DC into the next SC, and 1 DC into the next SC, and then into the SC, chain 1 SC space here, work 1 DC, chain 1, and yarn over, work 1 more DC to create a V stitch here. Again we have 3 SCs ahead for this shell, work 1 DC atop each of the 3 SCs below, 1, 2, and 3, and before we move on to the SC of the next shell, chain 1, and then again just keep following the same pattern till the end. So this is how we have to go about in this round all the way. Just keep moving, work 3 DCs, then work a V stitch, then 3 DCs, then again chain 1, and then again repeat the same till you reach here. So here I have worked it all the way. This is the last round, the 6th round of this African flower pattern, and then worked my last 3 DCs, chain 1, and then insert the hook into this top 3rd chain to join this round here. Secure it with the knot, cut the thread. Please sew in the loose ends wherever. So this beautiful African flower hexagon motif gets completed here. You can use it in a variety of ways, and it has such a beauty and appeal to it. Simply gets completed in 6 rounds, and yet it is such a nice thing to create. Have fun crocheting, have fun learning. See you next time.